program.
Dean, you're the best. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I paid you to say that. I appreciate it. So it's great to have Devry here, and I've got a bunch of questions for you, but I thought, I'm very impressed just at what's happened with Devry over the last few decades. Years ago, I was on a little tiny advisory board at a company called Keller Graduate School, and Dennis Keller walked into the boardroom one night and said, by the way, we're buying Devry from Bell & Howell, and everybody's mouths dropped. And what you guys have done since then is just amazing. Most people don't know they have 9 different colleges, or actually 8, but 9 if you count Keller. Just very, very impressive track record. So you want to give us some quick stats just to ground everybody?
Sure. Thanks, Dean. And of course, you're one of our favorite alumni from Keller. So most everybody knows Devry University since it was founded here in 1931 by Dr. Herman Devry. But today, Devry University, although still our largest institution, is just a little bit less than half the group, and that's why we call it Devry Education Group. So there's actually 3 segments. The first is our business, technology, and management education, which includes Devry University, Keller Graduate School of Management, about over 80 campuses around the United States, as well as
80 campuses.
80 campuses, wow. Plus a lot of students going online as well, and most are mixing and matching online and on-site coursework. So bachelor's and master's degrees there. The second group is healthcare. Healthcare has been our fastest growing segment for the last 10 years. So 2 medical schools that serve the United States. Collectively, we're the largest producer of new physicians to the United States. Chamberlain College of Nursing is part of the group, celebrating its 125th anniversary this year, and just opened a new campus in Tinley Park. So that's our 3rd one here in Chicago, about 13 across the country. We'll open 4 more this year. So nursing is obviously a huge area of need. Carrington College is in that healthcare group as well, and they provide the medical technicians. So across this healthcare group, we're really covering the waterfront. And then the third and final segment is international and professional education. So many people, anybody in the world of accounting here, or any CPAs?
We don't invite them to these events.
We don't invite them?
No. Manny told me I'm not allowed.
There's a hand waving.
Oh, get out of here.
From BN, there you go, BNY Mellon.
Actually, he's on the NIU board. He is an accountant.
He's an accountant, okay. Most accountants would know the Becker CPA review, because they prepare most of the CPAs. And so that's part of Devry Education Group, has been for a little over 20 years. And so professional education, corporate training in 55 countries around the world. And then finally, in that group is Devry Brazil, which is why I was mentioning Moises, the Portuguese element here. We have over 30,000 students today in Brazil. Medical school, engineering is huge, healthcare, and so that sort of rounds out the group, about 15,000 colleagues, over 100,000 degree-seeking students, and about $2 billion in revenue. Also New York Stock Exchange organization.
Not quite from the 1800s, though. So this is definitely not your father's DeVry school.
Exactly.
Which is awesome. So you guys have also been very visionary and supportive of the Chicago civic community. You were one of the first ones to show up at 1871 and said, hey, can my head of innovation get a desk here? And we said, I guess, I don't know. And so really exciting news that happened yesterday. Tell us about the EdTech Venture.
Right. So we, as you say, have been supporting 1871. And Jeff Dunn is here. Where's Jeff? Jeff. So if anybody's interested in what we're doing, Jeff leads DeVry, what we call DVX, DeVry Experimental. Or you just have to have an X in your name to be cool.
So Jeff is an experiment? Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, Jeff's an experiment.
Genetically modified? Or?
Yeah, exactly. So it's a successful experiment. And Jeff and his team of educational technologists and PhDs are looking for the next best thing in teaching and learning. And so we've supported the startups in the community at 1871, and now just yesterday we announced, so the timing of this couldn't have been better, a new vertical. So everyone knows 1871 is incubating startups. They've been instrumental in launching, I think, a biotech incubator and a financial, fintech, and others. Well, we're EdTech. So we have launched, together with 1871, just yesterday, a new incubator to support startups who are doing anything around teaching and learning innovation. So, yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Congratulations, Jeff and team. So our point is, and in the past, and Ed Tyler's here, and we worked together at Donnelly. We had a venture operation, remember that? And at Metromail, there's some Metromailians here as well. So George and Janet. So I ran a venture corporate venture arm there too. We thought about doing that, and what we said for innovation, and I think we may get to this later, rather than start a venture arm, we're basically investing sweat equity. So we've got a group of educational technologists that want to work with the startups as basically your beta customer of choice. So we want to be very easy to do business with. So for the venture capitalists who are here, we're not competing for deals. We want to work with you to support the deals.
We don't invite them either.
Yeah, there you go.
So there's a couple people here that are actually doing EdTech startups. How do they approach you? Do you have a vetting process? How are we going to get this thing going?
Basically, we want to talk to anybody who's innovating in the world of educational technology.
Not right now, after we're done.
Talk to you. Jeff is here, so see Jeff, see me. Give us a call, send us an email, and we'll check it out. And the idea is, that's really, when we thought about it, what the startup community needs. If you have a good idea, a good business plan, getting money is actually not the hardest thing. It's getting that great sort of launching, enabling client or customer. And that's what we want to do. The problem is the large organizations are very slow and hard to do business with. So we're trying to break that down and be nimble, easy to do, and running lots of pilots all the time. And so, with that success, that's usually what can help attract more capital and people and everything else.
Yeah, and you've already got a couple ventures under your belt, which is good. You've been supporting some startups, and we need more of that in the community. You and I talked about this speech I did at the UN about the entrepreneurial movement and how it's transforming a lot of companies, a lot of cities, in some cases a lot of countries. And as you know, I teach at a large institution, Kellogg, and you came out of Harvard. How do these big, fat, institutions kind of help? How can we shift education to actually be a better training ground for entrepreneurialism?
You're not even teaching, as I understand it, Dean, you don't even teach it in a classroom. You're actually teaching every class at a company.
That's right. Paul Earle and I went to Kellogg. It says, good news is we want to teach a class. The bad news for you is we don't want to be on campus, so we host them in major corporations downtown. And there's a couple students here, they love it. And they learn a lot but they're learning from guys like you. I mean, they're learning at corporations and startups and incubators. So that's one way.
Yeah, and so that's what we try to do. We've always been career-oriented, and everything we teach, all of our programs are applications and career-oriented. So a good example of a partnership these days is Walgreens. So great Chicago company. One of the things they're doing to innovate is transforming themselves from a retailer to a healthcare provider. If you think about it, a big part of their growth is those in-store clinics that you can go into and get a quick diagnosis and get what you need. Well, think about who staffs those are FNPs, family nurse practitioner, masters prepared nurses. And so the biggest gating factor on their growth of these clinics is actually staffing them up with those FNPs. So our Chamberlain College of Nursing has partnered with Walgreens to help provide the pipeline. So the clinical education is happening in there, partnering with their nurses, and then they get the pick of the litter to hire them after the clinical education's done. So it's kind of transforming the definition of how we think of ourselves from a university to being a workforce solutions provider, solution to their workforce needs, not just of today, but for the future.
Yeah, I'm just having a hard time visualizing me going to Walgreens for everything. I mean, eventually, will it be like Walmart? They'll have nursing homes, Walgreens nursing homes? Because we'll all be prospects at some point. We'll trust the brand.
I'm working on it. I just got kicked up from YPO to WPO, so...
Oh yeah, you're in the old club now.
Exactly.
So all right, that's interesting. So a lot of people from the financial services industry here tonight, working at big corporations. No secret that a lot of these big corporations, big corporate jobs are either not attractive to the millennials who seem to be on this side of the room. I don't know why. Oh, the bar's over there. Right. So that's one thing. And then the people that are actually in these large corporations. They need to kind of, they went to school a long time ago. How do they kind of continue to improve their learning? I think our nickname is like chunky learning. What is that?
Chunky learning. It's basically chunking up the learning and being a lifelong learner. I think the financial services industry is a great example of that because you might start out with a bachelor's degree, but increasingly, you need that master's or you need a certification, whether it's a CFA or a CPA, that kind of thing. But even those are getting chunked down into certificates, maybe a 4-course certificate. People are getting learning through MOOCs. We could talk about that, and other forms of chunked up learning, I think is what you mean by the chunky learning. So we work with a lot of the big financial institutions, not just through our career services and they're hiring our graduates, but helping them educate or further educate the colleagues that they already have to take them to the next level.
And what about if people don't want to go to college? I mean, the whole EdTech promise was MOOCs has kind of had a so-so track record so far, but maybe the game hasn't started yet. So what's your vision of EdTech? What's really cool that's coming down the pike? You know, we've got a huge 3D printer over here by one of the hottest companies in Chicago that can basically print a chair. There's all types of new technologies coming out, but I haven't seen a lot of EdTech stuff really accelerating learning yet. So what's your vision there?
Just a few examples. EdTech is a very wide range of technologies, and we use technology with a small t, not a capital T. So it's any kind of learning methodology, or pedagogy would be the term, pedagogy, the learning methodology. But some of the examples that we're working on right now include the use of data and analytics to better predict which students might be struggling even before they exhibit that, so that we can surround them with support from our faculty and from our academic advisors right away. And we're working with a company out of Austin called Civitas Learning that uses big data and analytics to predict that, and it's actually improving our students' persistence and retention. But it goes on. I mean, there's gamification. Our Chamberlain College of Nursing has gamified a pharmacology course. They call it PharmFat. And
I'm not sure why my doctor is getting trained through a game, but I'll check it out first.
Yeah, exactly. Well, but it's supplemental probably to the classroom. Patient simulation. So we all know about human patient simulators, and you wouldn't believe the technology that goes into those massive computers that are inside, you know, a mannequin. But one of the issues we had is you can buy a human patient simulator, you can't buy an animal patient simulator. So our vet school had to innovate that themselves and actually created the first donkey simulator. And I wish I had a picture. It's really cute and fuzzy.
I want one. Yeah. You don't have to walk them. They just walk around the house and make, you know, look cute.
Exactly.
Very cool. So what do you think in terms of people training for something right now? What do you think are some hot categories that, you know, may not be part of your genre, of course, but
sure.
You know, I mentioned the Internet of Things. That's one that most people don't even understand yet. But what could they do that'll help them in the next 18 months?
Well, Internet of Things is interesting because we're talking to Cisco right now about helping them develop a curriculum to teach that and build their ecosystem of trained people who can operate in that. And so that's part of trend number one, I would say, which is tech. Anything tech is very hot today. Not surprised to hear that. And the other is healthcare. Healthcare just continues to grow. I think with the Affordable Care Act, more people insured. There's going to be a huge need for primary care physicians, nurses, physician assistants. Those are all growing, and so we're striving to keep up with that demand. So healthcare and tech, I would say, the two big ones.
And how about just on the management side? So you know, Keller Graduate School, pretty big brand. Entrepreneurship, what's going on there?
Yep. Entrepreneurship, definitely a growing area at the bachelor's level and at the master's level. And you may be surprised to hear this. It's not sexy, but I said it before. Accounting. Accounting is growing. The demand for accounting, as you know, Sarbanes-Oxley kind of started, and then more and more regulation, Dodd-Frank legislation. It just creates more and more need for accountants, external accountants, internal accountants. There's accountants checking the other accountants. I've got actually now 4 levels. I'm now going to do a quality assurance review.
That's a 5-level course.
Exactly.
Accountants checking accountants,
exactly.
checking accountants.
So I've got accountants checking the external accountants who are checking our internal accountants who are checking our internal audit department, and it's just unbelievable. So luckily for us, we have opportunities to train and educate those people, outweighing the increased compliance costs that we have to pay. So it works out.
Let's shift to, so you're in the AKTA lab here. User experience is all we think about. So let's talk about student experience. Do you call it that?
Student experience, sure.
Yeah. In some schools, it really, it sucks. It's just not great, I've noticed. And they're the customers in my mind. So where do you think that needs to go? Just industry-wise, not necessarily. I don't
right, not just for us, but industry-wise.
Don't want to put you on the spot.
Absolutely.
I'll do that later.
Yeah, absolutely. The student experience has to go up. And that's both in the classroom and then in everything that surrounds the classroom. So all the supporting services, whether it's financial aid, student academic advising, career services, and so forth, it's got to meet students where they are. So obviously a big one is mobile. Mobile applications for students. So now you can download at the Play Store for Chamberlain College of Nursing or Devry University, all of our institutions. You can get your grades.
So I can take my classes right on this?
You can even take your classes.
I'm taking one right now, actually. I don't even have to be there. He doesn't take attendance. Does that work? I mean, do you have to go to class and do the online stuff, or can I just use that?
Online, whether you're accessing it mobile or in front of, more commonly in front of the computer itself, is proving to be a very effective pedagogy, effective learning methodology, right there with classroom-based learning. And I think where it ultimately goes is the blend, the best of both, on-site and online learning.
Yeah, so there's lynda.com spelled with a Y, and even Kellogg, or Northwestern, I should say, is using that to supplement some really good lectures on there. And a lot of people are commuters here, public transportation. I look at my phone in the car, I admit it, but in public transportation, you can kill a half an hour with your earphones on. And do you see me people getting a degree that way without ever touching a school?
For us,
looking out 5-6 years?
Yeah, I think most of the students that we're seeing need a lot of support. They need a real professor. They need real support services, maybe tutoring services, that kind of thing.
So my job's safe then as a professor?
You're very safe as a professor.
Thank God.
You might be delivering it.
It was a trick question.
Well, you might be delivering it online, though, Dean. But it's still a professor. So there's a big difference, and this is a huge a lot of misinformation, misunderstanding out there, that people think that online delivery equals automated with no human interaction. It's just like you're reading a book, and nothing could be further from the truth. Some of those, like lynda.com, and I know Linda, she does a great job, and others, it's great supplemental, as you said. Just like course materials or a book are supplemental. But typically it doesn't replace the interaction of professor and student.
Any comments on my millennials don't want to work for the big companies? Any way to fix that?
Millennials, and I do a lot of conversations. My door is always open to people who are thinking about their career or interested, whether it's with us at Devry Group or somewhere else. And the thing that I've kind of learned from other people is typically, the funnel works. Start big, and work your way small. I think sometimes it can certainly work. Mark Zuckerberg, but for every Mark Zuckerberg, there's a lot of people who kind of went small at the beginning and didn't get this sort of academy training of a BNY Mellon or of an IBM or a Xerox. I mean, they really teach you how it really works. It's like that second MBA. And I think there's a lot to be...
So if you're interested in a vertical, go work for that company, get them to pay for you for a couple of years, start the business on the side maybe.
There you go.
Don't tell them you're doing it. Right, Moses? That's the way to do it. Dirty secrets. How about questions? Who's out there with some good ones? Let's get a question in here. Moises.
Right, okay, so Moises' question is really about college affordability, and it's getting expensive. So what are the trends there? And I think it's an excellent point that you're making, or question that you're asking, because people are questioning the value of a college degree. It's very interesting. But the fact is, just the first thing is, the fact is that the value of a college degree, the return on investment, or the return on education investment, ROEI, is actually higher today than it's ever been. And there was just a report out by the Federal Reserve Bank of New York, so you could Google this, just came out a couple weeks ago, that showed that the difference between the lifetime earnings of those with a college degree versus those who never achieved a college degree is vast. And the interesting thing there, in the recession, in the weak economy of the last 5 or 6 years, you've seen more and more stories that say, college isn't worth it anymore. And every time you see one of those, just call up the reporter who wrote it and say, well, let me ask you, which one of your kids are you going to advise not to go to college? And they'll always say, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, do it as I say, not as I do.
Exactly. But it made for a great story. It really sold newspapers.
But people are really piling on to that. They're saying, why are you going to these big, expensive schools? So that's the top tier Ivy League, and then you've got the mid-tier, and they say, well, don't go to those. If you're going to spend the money, then get the big brand schools. I don't think that's good advice.
I think everybody finds their niche. Everybody finds the school that's the right fit for them. And so I think, as students do that, and there's a lot of great options. We have public sector state schools. We've got community colleges, heavily tax subsidized and have lower tuition. We have a lot of great private schools here in Chicago and around the country, private sector independent schools. So that's the strength of the U.S. higher education system. Just stepped down as our chair for many years was Harold Shapiro, who was president of Princeton and president of Michigan. And he always said, that's the strength of the U.S. system, is our diversity of choice. And we really have, that's a strength that many other, and you came from abroad, in Europe, you don't really have that kind of choice. They don't have a developed sort of private sector, for example. And so I think every student needs to find the school that's the best fit for them. But the data does show that a college degree, for some people that might be a 2-year college degree, it might be a vocational, but high school plus one more piece of paper is typically what you need to compete in today's world.
And if they ask you, why would you do that? Just say, well, why is it that every foreigner, the good kids in these countries want to come to America to be, to go to our schools? It's like there's a reason for that. Other questions? Manny. I make a habit never to repeat what Manny says.
Okay, yeah.
I never want to go after Manny.
Good, exactly. So I'll paraphrase it. Why would a large enterprise, large organization like Devry Group want to get involved with a small but very fast-growing like AKTA? And AKTA does work with us and is providing us some great ideas about design and how do we think about our user experience, student experience. And that's really what we do in a large measure, Manny, is as a private sector college, private sector university, we bring some of the best practices of the private sector to this world of education that's traditionally been run in large measure by the public sector. It's very interesting. So we talk about customer service, which you can't even mention at many traditional universities. It'd be run out of town. They're not a customer. Well, we treat our students like a customer. We treat our employers like a customer, and we want to make sure that they have a good customer experience. So customer service, user design, those are the kinds of things that we try to bring in from the financial services industry, the telecom industry, and others, and bring those in. And so AKTA is somebody that helps us do that.
We really want to thank you. We've got a little something special for you here tonight before you move off. I hope. We've been working on the 3D printer model for you, and this is for you.
Wow. This is printed just
now.
Look at that.
Devry Education Group,
Devry Education Group, AKTA Innovation Series 2014. Thank you for that, Dean.
So much.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.